You've probably heard people talk about muscle memory a lot over the years about learning music, and I want to clear up some common misconceptions about this because it has some serious implications for how you practice and perform music. Now, the big thing you need to know is that muscle memory is not in the muscles at all. It's actually in your brain. So your muscles always respond to commands from your brain. They're not just doing things automatically themselves, not the ones you use for playing music anyway. So what's really going on here is we're not building memory in the muscles. What's happening is we're creating and reinforcing neural pathways up here in your head. So although the term that's used is muscle memory, that's really unhelpful. It's not correct at all, but sadly that is the case, and you'll probably even hear me using it at times. So it's unfortunate, but that's what we've got to live with. Hey friends, Morley-Fletcher here, and welcome back to the channel. And at this point, you might be wondering, well, does this really matter? And how does it change things anyway? This muscle memory being in the brain, not in the muscles. Well, I reckon there are two big issues. And the first is that you can't do stuff on autopilot. You have got to pay attention to what you're doing. So I actually made a whole video about the need to be focused and paying attention while you practice. And someone came back with a comment on that and replied to me saying, well, doesn't this conflict with muscle memory? So that's why I'm making this video today, to explain a bit more about exactly what muscle memory is, and to partly to say this does mean that you have got to be paying attention when you do your music practice. So check out that earlier video, it should be up there on the screen if you want the full story. I'll put a link in the description below as well. But the short answer is that you can't just do mindless repetitions and expect that to stick because your muscles memorize things. It's the brain that matters, and the brain only changes when you're paying attention. So you've got to do that. You need to pay attention when you practice. And the second thing that I think is a bit less obvious is that when you actually perform music, you just cannot discount your mental state, because this memory as we're calling it now, is in the brain rather than in the muscles. So what that means is other stuff going on in your brain, other bad things, for want of a better word, whether you're unfocused, whether you're nervous about a performance, whatever's going on in your mind, that can mess up things that you would normally be able to play perfectly, because it's not there in your muscles. That's not where the memory is. It's in your brain, and so your brain can get in the way and mess those things up. But what this means is that you need to train your mind for performance as well as physical skills, because it's the mental skills that are going to allow you to stay in that state where all that careful practice you've done so that your brain, not your muscles, knows exactly how to play what you want is clear, is not being affected by other things. You can be in that mental state where that all comes out perfectly, and therefore you get the perfect performance. So if you want to go deeper into this, then check out my Unlock Your Performance course, which shows you how to develop all the mental skills and mindsets that you need. And I'll put a link in the description below. But I think, first of all, that says you need to work on these things. But one of the other things that comes out of this is I often hear people say it's not just practicing until you can get something right, you need to practice until you can't get it wrong. And there's a lot to be said for that, because you definitely need to go beyond just the first few times you get things correct. You need to practice something until you know it so well you can kind of play it without having to think too much. But there is a danger in that, because all this being able to play it perfectly is in the brain, and we've said, well, actually that means that other stuff going on in your brain can get in the way, can interfere with that. This means that first of all, there is no such thing as practicing until the point where you can't get it wrong. Because if you get nervous enough, if other stuff, if you get distracted enough in your brain, if other things are going on there, it is possible that stuff that you can do perfectly in practice, when you haven't got those competing unhelpful thoughts going on, it's just not going to come out in performance. So there's always something that could go badly enough again, for want of a better term, in your brain, that you won't be able to play something perfectly. So yes, go with the intention behind practice until you can't get it wrong. You need to over practice things if you like, but don't believe there is ever a stage where you will never ever get it wrong again. And so first of all, there's no point going way too far down that road, diminishing returns and all that. But secondly, cut yourself some slack in that case. If you do have something that you think you can play, brilliantly in practice and it doesn't go right in performance, that may not mean that you're useless, that you haven't practiced it properly. It may just mean that actually you weren't in quite the right mental state when performing, and A, that happens to everyone, B, it's something you can work on. So just be a bit kind to yourself in those situations. Don't feel you've failed completely. If you've done the work, you've practiced something seriously, and then something derails you for other reasons in performance. Now, again, don't take this as an excuse not to practice anything at all. I'm not saying don't do the work. I'm just saying sometimes you've done a lot of the work and other things get in the way. And by the way, if that was really useful, what I've just shared with you, then I would love it if you just click like on this video. Thanks very much. I really appreciate it. And so there you go. Although it's called muscle memory, it's really about the brain. And this means that you need to go beyond just mindless repetition, and you need to engage your concentration when you're practicing. And it means you need to train your mind if you want to perform your best as well. But provided we've reached that stage where you are engaged with what you're practicing, then consistent practice over time is hugely important to making the progress that you want. So check out my video on how to practice music every day next. And if you'd like the special practice and performance tips that I only share with subscribers, then head on over to playinthezone.com and sign up for the emails. They're free. I've been Morley-Fletcher. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.